What's up, Amber?
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
You're always first so far.
I thought
Hello.
that I was gonna be late today because my jacuzzi man was coming at 11, but he got here early and just left, so perfect timing.
Well, thank God for the jacuzzi, man. That's awesome.
I needed
Jacuzzis are very important these days.
super.
Um, Certainly during a pandemic. How was your weekend?
Not bad. It was a pretty good weekend. No complaints. How was yours?
Very drunk. My girlfriend and I went to wine country in Solvang, and we went to like 5 different wineries. Luckily we had a driver, so that was good. And
Nice.
it was a lot of fun. We went to a place called SY Kitchen, which is the same people who do like Houston's, Bandera, and all that stuff. Do you know
Oh,
those
yeah.
restaurants? Yeah, and so they have like a research, like an R&D kitchen, so to speak, in Solvang, and it was really good. It was great,
Nice.
great time, all good stuff. I know Susan. You might be on mute. Well, I remember Susan when I first joined Keller Williams, so it's awesome to see her.
Yeah. Hey, Josh, how are you? It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Jared, but yes, close enough.
Oh, sorry. I know
Hey,
that
Josh is a good guy to share a name with, so that I don't mind. And Diana Munoz killing it.
Hey.
Diana came and cold called with me. What day was it? Thursday?
Yeah, I think it was Thursday.
Yeah, I was super hungover. I had just come back from Spago the night before, so she still killed it though. And I heard that you got your numbers up in the power session.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right, so I'm gonna let everybody kind of trickle in, and let's start at around like 11:05. I'm gonna get all the material up and running, and yeah, we'll get going at around 11:05, and we'll report our numbers. So give me a minute. And get some drinks or like water or caffeine or whatever you need to push you through. So 11:05 we'll get going. Okay, I just put today's material in the chat box. So if you want to follow along, that's weird. Oh. If you want to follow along, please feel free to click on that. And before we get into all that fun stuff, let me pull up our daily reporting numbers. Let's see. Uh-oh, I clicked it out. No, that's not what I wanted. There we go. All righty. So did everybody have a good weekend?
Sure do you.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was good.
Nice. Did you get any more? We'll find out, David, but that was good cold calling. Did you get through that list?
I did. I feel like people in that area were kind of rude.
No way. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that in class. Absolutely. Awesome. So let's just start going down the list. Angela Cross, how was your weekend? And let us know your numbers.
I gotta count my numbers. Can you come back
No
to
worries.
me?
Take your time. We'll come back to you. Amber C, how was your weekend? We already went over that quickly. How was your numbers?
Weekend was good. The numbers, I'm still small. I didn't really call anyone. I did talk to a couple of friends over the weekend. One of them wants me to help him buy his next house. His wife is newly pregnant, and he saw that I finished real estate school, and he's really looking forward to being able to use me.
Nice. I love it. So how many overall? Like,
I did talk to 3 people overall, and that's it.
awesome. Good job. That's awesome. And listen, it's like what Josh was saying, rather you do like 1 or 2 calls and get, a good contact than 100 calls and get 0.
Right.
So you always
Baby
want
steps.
to, yep, absolutely. Good job. Good job. Susan, how goes it?
It goes well, actually.
Atta girl, and you're killing it. I remember hearing some of your numbers with Josh's. So what we're doing right now is how many numbers we are trying to do daily and weekly, and then the actual. So how many per day are you committed to reaching proactive reach outs?
20.
20. Awesome. And how much was the actual?
6.
Atta girl.
And I have a listing appointment either tomorrow or Wednesday. We're firming up the
Nice.
date. Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. And Amber, did I write down how no, I needed to put that in there. Awesome. Okay, Diana Munoz.
$15,500.
Atta girl. How did those 5 combos go?
Well, I mean, it was from the cold calling, honestly.
Well, I mean, I'll get just because I was doing mine at the time, so I probably didn't hear most of yours.
But yeah, I think most people were like, yeah, not at this time, maybe. Like some people were just like, take me off your list. So not that great.
Sure. And what I also like to think of, for example, I just says I don't do as much cold calling as I used to, but mainly because I've noticed I've gotten very comfortable talking with my friends, family, past coworkers and stuff like that. So instead of doing the cold calling, I'm actually just reaching out to people I already know, people who already know me, going through my Instagram, my Facebook, whatever. And the cool thing about cold calling is it just gets you so much more conversational. And you I like to say you're working on the gift of the gab, and you just realize how like, oh wow, I'm like really good at conversation now. And reaching out to friends and family, like it's just so much more smooth for me right now. And so that's what I'm mainly doing. So I definitely still want to say keep up with the cold calling. You're going to get a lot of meh kind of people, but to be honest, when the more the quantity, you'll find the quality. Through the quantity, you'll find the quality. And I truly do believe that. And I mean, frankly, I did the auto dialer. So I think it was like when we sat down, I did like, I don't know, 36, 40, something like that, calls and talked to like 6 or 7 people within a much shorter time frame than you were calling. And I got one of the leads. I actually talked to the lady again over the weekend, and she did remember me. I don't know if you remember, she sounded a little bit forgetful. Yes. And so that was a good sign that she's not completely. So we'll see, but the point is that cold calling, you will definitely get leads through it. You just have to be very consistent with it. And if you're just starting and you're feeling like you're running out of contacts in your personal database, that's when I really think, cold calling is really, an awesome thing for you to start doing, because one, you get a lot of practice in talking about, starting conversation with a stranger and building rapport with a stranger. And then two, asking for appointments, getting used to that habit of asking for the appointment, and frankly, asking for the business or the referral. So I love cold calling for that reason. And especially when we're just starting out, it's a very cheap and effective way to lead generate. So good job, Diana. That's really awesome. And by the by, this is your highest numbers, if I'm correct, as of late.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. It's awesome. You knocked it out of the park, Edo. All righty. Cool. Now let's see. David Maharo. You also joined us cold calling. Did you finish the list?
Yeah, there was I think I contacted, well, I don't think it was 17 people that answered out of the entire list. And then but before that I called 6 for sell by owners before the cold calling session we had. So I had good conversations with them, better than actual cold calling people.
Sure.
So I had 6 and 17, that'd be 23 contacts.
And how many in total do you think you called?
Like dials?
Yeah.
Oh my God, probably like too much, but some of them didn't answer. It was like for sure over like 60.
Let's give you 70.
Okay.
So good job. I mean, 70 out of 23, that's not too bad in my opinion.
Yeah.
How did the for sale by owners go? I haven't done that yet. How did that work?
To be honest, I watch a lot of, I watched this one guy who does just for sale by owners on YouTube. Like he does this training. They're just nicer than regular people. It's kind of weird. So, like if you approach them correctly, they're nicer. Like the conversations, they're willing to be more open about it. As long as you're not, trying to jab in that you're trying to list them or anything. But I kind of just, told them like, hey, I'm here to help. I'm a resource. If you need any help, along the way of closing the transaction, feel free to reach out. We have different partners with title or lenders that you might need referrals from. I was like, so just keep me in mind. And then I also do send them my business card because I have it in a PDF. I'll just text it to them, and then I'll just be like, oh, I'm gonna text you this. And then also I ask him if I can give him a call in 2 weeks if he doesn't sell the property. So then I have a follow-up also, so he's expecting me to call him or them.
Okay, cool. That's good. Yeah. And who's the guy on YouTube you watch?
Well, his name's Brandon Merlin. He's, in my opinion, he's good, but he's really small. But he just focuses on for sale by owners.
I haven't seen him. I think I watched everybody YouTube video. I haven't even seen
I wouldn't do that, hell, because then you get stuck on so many different, you're trying to copy so many people or trying to pick up on so many things. But he's really good though. I would watch his videos for
Brandon
sure.
Merlin. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's
Thank
like
you.
Murlien or something.
Oh,
and for everybody on the call, I think watching other people cold calling on like YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff is definitely good. But there's a reason why I always try to say, this is a great script, but make it your own. You want to come off as yourself. I to be completely honest, if we're in like, small Hobunk town out in like, middle of America, you might be able to use some like, psychology thing to get people to agree with you. But in Los Angeles, we have a fairly highly educated population here. Scripts and dialogues are great, but really what we're trying to do is build rapport with people. And don't be so transactional about it. Try to build rapport. And meaning by that is, somebody who knows, likes, and trusts you. And I know it's very difficult to do that with a stranger, but if you do it correctly and you learn how to have conversations with people, you can get some trust from people fairly quickly. So yes, I want everybody to like focus on like studying like YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff. I think it's great. But I also want us to remind ourselves, don't try to be a carbon copy of somebody else. Add some of your own personality into it, because people are going to be able to tell when you're being disingenuous. So I don't know if anybody was listening to my calls that I had with the lady in where was she? She was in Santa Clarita. I was cold calling in that area. But we had just like a normal conversation. I wanted to know about her family. I wanted to know about her daughters who had moved to another state. And through those conversations, I was able to determine, well, if you sold your house, and believe me, it sounds like I was being very transactional, but anybody who's listening to me on that call, I promise you it didn't come off that way. It was basically, we found out that her daughter lives in Texas. She has grandkids who are growing up in Texas. They live in San Antonio in Texas, in fact. If she were to sell her house, she could get around $600,000. And for $300,000, if she moved to Texas, she could have a better house, a newer house. Basically, we were talking about how there is no downside for her to, consider selling. And she could finally be closer to her grandkids and watch them grow up. The point is, at the end of the call, she was very, very thankful that I called her. And she was like, oh my gosh, thank you for giving me a call. Like, I never really thought of it like this, blah, 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 blah. And when I called her over this weekend, she was like excited to hear from me. So we want to remind ourselves, definitely listen to cold callers, see the kind of scripts and dialogues they're using, but take it with a grain of salt and add your own little spice and flavoring to it. Because if we just come off as, hi, my name is blah, 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 do you, blah, 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 and trying to trick people into like agreeing with you, it sounds cool, it sounds sexy, but it doesn't really work, in my opinion. So anyway, that's besides the point. Awesome, David, you're the shit. Thank you, man. Good stuff. Grace, how was your weekend?
Good.
How was your numbers? Did you hit them?
I called 6.
Nice.
Yeah, nothing. It just
Came up with zeros. All good. Well, in my experience, for me to get 6 contacts, it took me, I don't know, around 40 calls, to make. So if you bump that number up a little bit, you're going to see a little bit more, connections with people. And now also, I may add, when I was first starting out, I almost didn't want somebody to pick up. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do when they pick up? But, just get used to it, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because the more uncomfortable we get, the better we will become at the task at hand. So that's how I always look at it. Good job, Grace. That was awesome. Taylor Smith.
Hi.
Hey, how was your weekend?
Good. So, quite honestly, this is where I'm at. I have no idea how to even cold call. I'm that brand new. So, obviously, I've been doing my research and watching YouTube videos and things like that. But even from the services that you guys use to reach out to people and things like that, I don't even know where to start. So,
sure. Well, I'm happy to print out like a list of numbers for you if you're looking for numbers to dial. And if there's like a specific area that you're looking at calling,
yeah,
you can definitely, we can definitely talk about that. But really honestly, when I was dialing with David and Diana, I was basically saying, like, keep it simple. One of the most successful teams in Keller Williams, at least in the West Side, is the Richard Schulman team. And I think his script is the most basic script I've ever heard in my entire life. Yet he sells like hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate every single year. So, and that's his main lead generation tool. That's the main thing that they do is they're cold callers. And I believe it goes something like, hi, are you interested in taking advantage of the opportunities presented in today's market?
Yeah.
That's it. Like, hi, this is Richard. I'll say Jared instead. I'm not going to put words in his mouth. But hi, this is Jared Medlinski with Keller Williams Beverly Hills Realty. Are you interested in taking advantage of the opportunities presented in today's market? Yes or no? No? Click. Yes? Great. Let's talk. And it's that simple. And then after that, it's mainly just a conversation, And yes, of course, they're very purposeful as taking down the information. I'm sure they have a lead intake sheet and all that kind of stuff. But the main thing is they're going right to the point. Do you have a need in real estate? If so, I'm here to help. And let's talk about it. So I think that oftentimes when we're first starting, we overcomplicate things. Mike Ferry seems great, or Tom Ferry, whoever he is, seems great. But, the more I watched him, the more confused I got. And it just seemed like, now, if you really want to know my really high performing script, buy into this. And it's like, okay, come on. Like, you're just a salesperson trying to sell to real estate agents. Now, he is very, very an amazing coach, and people who use him, swear by him. I just feel that a lot of the times he's putting too much stuff into it, and just keep it simple, especially when you're first starting. But awesome. Good job, Taylor. Did we get any numbers, or we're kind of still just trucking along?
Yeah, I'm still just trying to figure it out. But what I was going to ask is, I'm kind of in a weird boat because I am just waiting on my license in the mail. And so I'm like in a hard spot because I actually have 3 leads, 3 people I know that want to buy. And I'm trying to figure out how to keep them like intact.
Yes.
While I'm waiting to get my license and, all of that.
Well, you're joining the Beverly Hills office.
Yeah. And like, they're not in a rush or anything. So I'm definitely not holding them off by any means. They're not in a rush, but just trying to keep them engaged more so.
Yeah. So in a rush, what's the time frame for them?
So one of them, for example, they're getting married in June. So they just want to do it before that.
Okay, so that to me is a bit of a rush, because the average time it takes to close with somebody is about 6 months. So that means they're looking, frankly, right now. And if that's the case, that one house that sticks out to them could be hitting the market today. Right. And if that's the case, I don't want them to go call the listing agent and not call you. So that said, if you'd want to, you're probably going to get a mentor. It could be me, but it doesn't have to be. If you want me to, before you get a mentor, I'm happy to help you out and maybe set them up on a drip campaign or something like that. And then obviously they're your clients. I'm just, I don't want you to lose something, especially if you have something coming in the mail, like in the next couple of weeks, so to speak. So let's talk, feel free to reach out to me after class and we can figure something out in regards to that. But I would definitely try to be proactive with them. And, frankly, a couple people I've done this with where, we kind of like share that client, or so to speak, and it counts towards their mentorship program requirement. Because I believe any new agent who joins a brokerage ends up joining the mentorship program. And there's like some type of a split between the mentor and the mentee. And I think it's like, I don't know.
It's 50-50 for the first.
Okay, whatever. Yeah. I always say it could be 20 something. I think 20% is sufficient, but whatever. But anyway, so I did that with Michael. So he was in previous classes. So let's definitely talk about that though, because definitely don't want to miss out on those. Very good. Good job. Well, you have 3 clients, it sounds like, potentially. So good job. Okay, Taylor, who's next? Cindy Melendez.
Hi, Jared. Hi, everyone.
Hi, how are you, my dear?
Good, thank you. I'm driving, but I want to participate. So I got 7 and 3, and then I had a few hiccups this weekend because I was dealing with investors. I got a pocket listing. I got a hold of a pocket listing, I should say, and then one of my buyers told me that they're considering becoming a renter instead, which stabbed me in the heart because I spent so many hours this past week and a half, like getting her to become like the buyer, and suggest to the previous person, she needs to find a home before June. And I was like, listen, I need you to start getting the ball rolling by talking to May. And she has, but she has not, because she hasn't given her the paperwork that she needs. And I'm like, I pretty much have my hands tied because I have to go at the pace that you're going. And if you want to move out before your lease is up, you're not giving much ample time because the market is hot right now.
Yep. And, you know, frankly, you might have to kind of put that client into like the
My
C,
C.
your C list. And, you know, just, you know, listen, we can take a horse to water, but we can't force it to drink.
Exactly.
And, you know, and we also don't want to come off as the agent who's pushing them to do something that they're really not ready for.
Exactly.
And while we might know that they are ready financially and everything like that, and we do know that it is the better decision for them to, you know, purchase, especially in the price range that she would be looking in. You know, some people just, you know, we don't know who's in their ear. Some, you know, uncle, some dad, some mom, some aunt who's telling them that, oh no, real estate's horrible. I lost all my blah 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 on real estate. Well, that's maybe them. Maybe they're not that, you know, good at real estate, or, you know, whatever. The point that I'm
Right.
getting at is we don't know what's going on in the behind the scenes. We can only, you know, go off of what we're being told, and, you know,
So with
we've done everything.
that, my question is, like, for the mentorship program, since she's going to become a renter, like, I already know it. She didn't want to tell me that because she's also trying to become an investor, like a home flipper. So she'd rather
I
put
find
all
that
her
so
eggs.
hilarious. She's scared to buy her first home, but she also wants to become a home flipper.
Same. I was like, what? I'm like, are you listening to yourself right now?
Yeah, maybe
So
she
anyway,
just doesn't get it. Yeah.
yeah.
Tell
So
her to flip her own home.
that's what I
Be
did
like, buy
say.
it and then flip it in 2 years.
I mean, it was like it's been like the biggest headache and the biggest to do. Oh my God, I lost my train of thought. So long story short, she wants to become a flipper now. But my question is now, I know she's going to become a renter eventually from the way that this is looking like, from what this is looking like, because like how Jared just said, who she has in her ear. Does the renter application count as one of my transactions, or does it have to be a home or a
Okay.
sell?
Rents count, and frankly, get those out of the way first, because then you're giving away less money.
Yeah, I'd
yeah.
rather get that out of the way because, and now for the renter aspect of that, my other question is the market for renting that hot right now too? Because she knows, I told her, I'm like, well, I can help you either way. Like if you're going to choose to rent or if you're going to choose to buy, let me know because I can help you with renting.
There's more availability coming up on the renting side. I feel like
Okay.
But it's very area to area. If that makes sense. Some areas there's nothing on the market. Some areas there's a lot of rentals on the market. So it depends on price range and where they're looking. But, you know, listen, we're real estate agents. We can navigate any market. You know,
Right.
and that's the beauty of what we do. We just have to realize what our strategies are going to be and how they're going to differ in the market. But yeah,
My
I'm sure.
the new lead that I ended up getting was an investor, and I want to know when the appropriate class shows up, or if towards the end of today's session at some point, if you could please give us some examples on how to talk to investors, because I felt myself honestly like completely lost. Like I didn't know what was the proper thing to ask them. And for example, hence to this pocket listing that I had, I felt completely a little through the loop, lost,
A little bit lost. So what type? Well, first of all, how are they an investor? What are they looking to achieve? Are they looking to buy properties and hold them for a while and rent them out?
No, just buy the property, flip it, and then sell it.
Yeah. Okay. So that sounds like, you know, they've been listening to a lot of Grant Cardone or like somebody like that, which is fine. I would look at properties to hold, frankly, usually for a lot of the investors that I would work with. And that's going to be looking at, you know, the cap rates and stuff like that. But for an investor who's looking to flip, that's pretty easy, equation. You're looking at something that if they were to purchase it, they would at least at minimum get a 30% return on their investment. So you're looking at a property that frankly is excuse my French, the shittiest house in the nicest neighborhood, and the cheapest house in the nicest neighborhood, has good bones, and frankly can be, either remodeled to an extent that they could flip it, or completely demolished, so you're getting it for land price and trying to flip it. Now, a lot of investors, some are going to be like, oh, our business model is strictly new construction. And other investors, their business model is going to be, no, we want an existing structure that is in good condition and we can build off of that. Maybe keep one or two of the walls up. And other than that, gut the entire place. So you're going to want to talk with them a little bit more in depth and ask them, what's your business plan? Don't come from the position of like, I know what you need. Be like, great. So you're an investor. What's your business model look like? What are you trying to achieve out of this?
When you say good bones, do you mean like good foundation, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
or the foundation of the house. Okay.
It could be the good. I mean, I would hope it has a good foundation, or otherwise that could blow somebody's budget. But yes, oftentimes it means a good foundation. Sometimes it just means a very good layout. For example, why do investors love mid-century modern? Because it frankly has a lot of open floor plan concepts, and they like that because they could really, buy a house like that and frankly do minimal renovations and sell it for quite a bit of money. It's more of like a facelift rather than a complete rebuild. I would look into it like that. For example, there was a mid-century modern that was purchased for dirt cheap because it just looked like it needed a lot of work. And, they're trying to sell it for $3 million. They purchased it for, $1.4 million, I believe, and they're trying to sell it for 3 something or other. And it's over in Bel Air. That's a great example of that form of investor. But it really depends though. You really want to talk to the investor directly and ask them, what are you trying to achieve? What is your end goal? Do you like to build new construction? Are you trying to do renovations? Are there certain areas that you don't want to look into? A lot of them want to look at the zenith or whatever. Anyway,
one asked me for he's like, give me the caps for that area, and I was like, okay.
Well, give you the cap rates.
Yeah, because I again, I found that
that's somebody who's going to hold on to the property for a bit. It sounds like.
Yeah, and I was like, well, because the thing is, I got a pocket listing that they're asking for 3.5 in Sherman Oaks, and then they were saying that after the flip, it would be worth 6 million, but nowhere. I was like, okay, so I presented that, and they were like, well, where are the caps? Like, you need to give me the caps and all that stuff. But again, I was like,
so again, Cindy, I think you really need to ask them, have the conversation, because you might be thinking flip, but they might be thinking long-term hold. They might be looking at purchasing a 4-unit apartment complex. They might be looking at purchasing, something like that. Because when I'm hearing cap rate, I'm thinking
multifamily. I think of multifamily.
Yeah, correct.
Well,
yeah.
that's what I thought too. But the thing is, I got thrown off because I got 2 investors telling me this. One does flipping for sure, and he does no construction, and the other one, he's a general contractor that does a lot of house flipping also. So from what they made it sound like to me, is that they wanted to get the houses and like flip them. But I was like, maybe I'm not communicating well. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But then when I talked to the real estate listing agent, she was like, I don't know what's going on with your investors. Either they want the property or not, but they didn't want to commit to it because there was nothing on that market for that street that was sold for 6 million to hold that property back.
So Cindy, who's do you have a mentor?
Yes, Jennifer.
Okay, I would definitely talk with Jennifer. I don't know if I know Jennifer, but I would talk with Jennifer
This
as
just
well.
happened on Sunday, so I haven't reached out to her yet, just
Okay.
yet. But
Okay.
I just, because
Yeah.
I also figured I would also talk to you about it too, Jared, because you were in construction also. So
Sure.
I was
Yeah,
like,
no,
okay.
absolutely. I'm just saying that I think this is a perfect example of of where you would bring your mentor into the conversation and just
Mhm.
say, "Hey, mentor, I think I really need you to help me with these people," because frankly, for a brand new agent to start working with flippers and investors and stuff like that, a flipper to me is not an investor, it's a flipper. An investor is somebody who's looking to hold property for a little while. Now that's just my personal terminology, how I try to frame it. And because they're different, they're totally different beasts.
Right.
They're
No,
looking for
they are.
different, things. And what you would do to navigate one conversation is going to be entirely different from the other. So I would bring Jennifer in with you on this and say, hey, can you help me with, communicating with these people, and maybe even have her get on the phone and talk with them directly and go, hey, so what are you looking for?
Well, I will, but both said no anyways, because there was nothing saying that anything with that pocket listing was worth 6 million ever sold in that property around that area.
That's so it's interesting that they're saying that, but yeah, I would likely say that that
I'm still
property
gonna bring
doesn't.
it up to her. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I right after all of this, I went and ordered the investors book that um Jerry Keller, is that his name? Gary Keller?
Gary Keller.
Yeah, that he wrote. So that
Nice.
way I could start. I'm like, okay, clearly I need to look up a little bit more into this.
I
So
like it. I like it. Awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, keep at it. I'm sure you're going to knock it out of the park. And so Cindy, what were your
Mhm.
numbers?
7 and 3, and then
Okay, perfect.
and 1 was that new lead that I just told you about. So
Nice.
and the other follow-ups and stuff. But that was it.
Awesome. Very cool.
Thank you.
All righty. And Gavin Schmidt, I think you are new, if I'm correct. You there, Gavin? Okay, we'll go back to you later. George Gaspar. You there, George?
I'm here. Sorry.
What is
Trying
up,
to
buddy?
unmute. How you
How was
doing?
your weekend?
It was great. It was great. I feel like I could do a little things better. I had 3 showings and 1 appointment this week. It was kind of a productive weekend. I just feel like my showings could be a little bit better, but have to work it on that. I have an appointment with a Brazilian father. He's a huge businessman back there in Brazil, and his daughter are purchasing a home. And I finally could have an appointment with all 2 of them and the lender. And that was pretty much it. So my numbers are 11, 4, and 1 appointment.
Awesome. And George, why do you feel your showings could go better? What about your showings do you think how you can improve on there?
Well, the reason why I say that is just because it was so fast that I couldn't prepare my, I don't know, I just wanted to have like the paperwork of the houses that I was showing to this buyer. I wanted to be prepared with the paperwork and all the instructions, and that's all I think. But overall was a good experience for both of these clients. But I just wanted to be prepared in a more like a branding, let's say this way, so I could give them a flyer of the house that we were showing, all the details of the house that we were showing. So I think this is a feedback even for myself what to do next and how to be prepared next to give all of that to them.
Yeah, so whenever we're doing showings, and I just want to let you know it's not as big of a deal as you think it is. Because really the house is going to speak for itself when the client's walking through it. But I will say this, if there's a very, very detailed write-up from the listing agent and it's talking about, maybe some disclosures on the agent remarks, you might want to have read that ahead of time. So for example, like it'll say description, and then underneath that, it'll say agent remarks. And the agent remarks will say something like, third bedroom was done without a permit, or foundations, issues, please ask for, report or something. They might have a pre-inspection report or something. It may be instructions of how to show the property. It may be instructions of how to submit the offers, whatever, or it could just be, hey, this is a great house, offers are due at this time, whatever it might be. And also just some stuff in the description. If the agent really, if it's like a newer construction or something like that, they might talk about the different finishes. They might talk about, what the countertops are made out of. They may talk about, I don't know, restaurants that are, located in the neighborhood, or how, close it is located to something or other. So all these things are really, really good to have ahead of time. And it makes us, or for example, what year was the, condo built, or what year was the house built? How much is the HOA per month? There's a lot of, nuggets of gold that are in the descriptions. That said, if you are in a rush and that property hits the market and you got to show it to them that day or the next day or something like that, and you're busy doing a bunch of other things, it's not, out of the realm. It's not inappropriate, rather, I should say, to just say to your client, you know what, I don't know that right now, let me look it up. And that's not a big deal. It's okay. And
Yeah, for them was not a big deal, thank God.
exactly. That's what I'm trying to get at. Because,
Yeah.
for example, George, it's not like selling a Hugo Boss suit. We know what the wool's made out of. We know what the supers are made are. We know all that kind of stuff. It's pretty much the same. Maybe the supers are different for suits to suits, but it's pretty. It is what it is.
Yeah,
Houses, they're all different, and so for us to have all that information on the tips of our tongue, yes, it's very important. But if we're in a time, crunch, and we just got to get the client into the showing because they really like it, it's okay. It's like, I was in such a rush trying to just get this appointment that I don't have that information in front of me right now. Let me go look it up. And if you have, this is why I like to use HomeSnap more than I use, Kelly or the, Keller Williams stuff or other third party stuff, because it is actually through the MLS. So all the agent remarks are going to be accurate to the MLS. All the, disclosures that are in there are going to be accurate to the MLS. The days on market is accurate to the MLS. My point is it's an app through the MLS. And that's why I like to use it, because whenever I'm in a property and my client asks me a question on it, I'm on my app and I just, look it up. I pull up to the property and I just pull it up, right when we're walking in.
That's exactly what I did yesterday. I had to keep it on my app like all the time. And one of the things that I also felt.
So it sounds like you did great. You were just nervous.
Yeah, I think just nervous, mainly because I was very happy that both of these clients was not, I don't have any family here, but it was not like a close friends. It was actually clients that I reach out and I didn't have connection, and I could, made them like leads and they were willing to buy. So I feel really accomplished because of that. And the only thing is I have two questions. One is, it is normal that we could have a lot of buyers, people that want to buy right now, but they are stuck because they don't want to they still delaying their lender appointment. So what do we do in that situation? Do we start sending homes? Because what I'm doing, I'm already sending some kind of properties just to make them more encouraged, but they still have to, because of the market that we are right now, they need to have the letter of the pre-approval letter.
Yeah, so good question. George, I would just keep sending them properties and have your lender follow up with them.
Okay.
Focus on your job, call the lender and say, hey, I need you to reach out to them, twice a week to get them, pre-approved. And that way you're not the pesky agent going, did you get pre-approved yet? Did you get pre-approved yet? Did you get pre-approved yet? And you're putting that responsibility onto the lender and bug your lender. You want to bug your lender, not your client. You know what I mean?
That's the
And
other thing that I feel like a little skeptical is if I should keep bugging the lender all the time to, talk to that
hell yeah.
company. Okay.
Screw the lender. Bug the crap out of them. They want your business, they'll fight for it. Okay.
Okay.
I love May, but she'll be the first person to tell you, I'm calling her when we're in escrow. I'm calling her every other day going, where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Where are we?
Okay.
And she knows that I love her to death, but she also knows that that's how I operate in business. And I promise you, she'll say, oh my God, I love Jared. He's the best. But, I'm also not rude to her. I'm also not, demanding of her, like, May, we need to get this done now. And like, I'm just like, hey, May, remember, I really need to blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. How's your day been, by the by? Oh, yeah, okay. And, we're having a nice little conversation. So, we always want to keep in mind how we're talking to people who we work with. But, I'm sure May would vouch for me that, we've been in some really down to the wire kind of transactions. And never once did I get, uppity with her, like, May, why don't you get this taken care of? It's like, it's probably not in her control. And I realize that. And I want to give professionals a professional courtesy that, hey, sometimes, things do not go as planned, but hey, how are we going to fix this? You know what I mean? And listen, that's because I was, a top level manager in construction, and I knew how to communicate with people when things were not going right. But you always want to be able to stay on top of your lenders. We want to look at lenders, escrow, title reps as part of our team.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a title rep, so we're not going to advise on title. That's what the title rep's going to do. We're not a lender, so we're not going to advise on lending. That's what the lender's going to do. We're not escrow. In fact, we should never act as escrow because it's a neutral third party who protects the integrity of the transaction. So we're going to rely on escrow to make sure certain things are being done in the way that they should be. And also that means, yes, we're going to stay on top of them because they're part of our team. When you're the quarterback, or if you're a senior, I mean, I know how to be a senior project manager in construction, but when you're a senior project manager at construction, are you scared to call your employees or the people who are working, underneath you? No, you call them. Like you have to. That's part of the job. Now, at the same point, if I have something going wrong on a construction project and I don't have an answer, am I calling the client right away? No, maybe I'm going to wait, a day or two and let me think about it, frankly. I mean, if it's a big emergency, like we hit a water main and we need the, power, water shut off, depending if we're in control of the project at that point, or if, the client's living there, we might need them to make a phone call or something or do whatever. But other than that, like, no, oftentimes I don't like going to my clients with problems or to annoy them with something. So for example, George, sorry, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So George,
No, actually it's pretty good though.
Get your lender involved.
Good to hear that.
Ask your lender to go ahead and call them. I think that you knocked it out of the park, and I love it because, it just sounds like, frankly, that you're, you care. And don't worry, it went well. I think that, for next time, before you go into the appointment, read the disclosures and stuff, the agent remarks and the description ahead of time. And then go into the property, and you might remember it off the top of your head. But if you don't, just go, give me a second. Yeah, so it was built in 1976. The HOA is $250 a month. And it says that, it includes earthquake insurance, which is great, by the by. And yeah, so that's what I got so far. Also, by the by, whenever we write an offer, we'll get full disclosures on HOA and all this stuff and blah, 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 blah. So don't worry, we'll get everything answered. Do you have any other questions right now? And great, let me check. Well, it doesn't say right here, but let me ask the agent. But don't worry, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a showing just because we were driving around a neighborhood and I saw that they were having an open house, and I was like, you know what, this actually might work for my client. Just for some reason we didn't see it, maybe we thought it was in a bad neighborhood, but it was in the valley, so like each block is different in the valley. And so you don't always have all the information at hand, but always remember that the house is really, or the condo is really going to speak for itself.
Okay.
And, you know, we really want to let our clients, whenever we're doing a showing, you know, we're actually kind of sitting back a little bit. You know, I hate those agents who follow the client around and go, and then I want to show you this, and then I want to show you that, and now focus on this. It's like, yeah. Let the client figure out the property on their own. They're going to look around, they're going to see stuff. Yes, it might be nice for us to point out some really nice features that are not readily, you know, easily, you know, noticeable by, you know, just looking. For example, they might have like easy close drawers or something like that. It might have, you know, the cabinets might have that as well. That might be something that we want to bring out. Maybe there's a pop-up oven range that, you know, comes up with a button. Maybe, I don't know, whatever. Like those are the kind of fun things that we're going to want to point out. Or, you know, this is Carrera marble, you know, fine, you know, point that stuff out. But when people walk into a house, there's a joke that I always make. It's like, so this is the living room, this is the kitchen. I'm just kidding. I'm pretty sure we can figure this all out. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, please enjoy, you know, look around and tell me what you think. Because you'd be so surprised. Like agents are like, this is a kitchen. It's like, no shit. Of course it's a kitchen. Like, get it. Like, you know, so anyway.
And make them feel like if it is their home, if they really like their home, they make them feel like it is their home already. Basically, they feel comfortable at that place. So I tried to do it. It's really good to hear that, and it really encouraged me, and I appreciate it, Jared.
Absolutely, bud. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now let's see. I think we're pretty much done. Crystal Allen. You there, Crystal?
Here I am. Here I am. Here I am.
All righty. I think
Sorry, guys. I'll be at work. So,
no worries.
Okay. So I have 12, 4. I know it's a little low, Jared. Don't get on me. Okay. It's been a crazy week. So I have one closing set for either today or tomorrow. I did one showing this weekend, one new offer in, and one new client.
And you're working full time.
Yes, I am.
Hear that, everybody? There's no excuses. Get out there, make those contacts, talk to people. You got this. Good job, Crystal. That's amazing.
Thanks.
Give yourself a good pat on the back. I will not get on you for that. You are doing it. You're knocking it out of the park. Good job. And I, as always, will report. Oh, Angela Cross. She's still on?
Did you say me?
Yes,
you
I
say
sure
my name?
did.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, so I have 11.
11. Where is your name? I'm missing you.
And then 2 of those 11 like gave me referrals to people who may be interested. I haven't called them yet. And then 5 of them only was interested in leasing. Like I feel like they think I'm rent.com or something.
Yeah, I got so many leases going on right now. I don't even want to think about leases.
How are you finding, are you, is this because of the buyers that you're approaching that everyone's finding their renters, or are the renters just coming to you? Like, where do you find them?
Well, renters, I find them personally because I have a couple lease listings. And I never want to work with renters. So if anybody wants renters, I got you.
Mine's came from me posting a showing when I was showing a property. And then people started DMing me. I posted it on social media. They're like, hey, how much is that ring for? I want to rent that. I want to rent that. I'm like, Then they're like, well, can you find me something, a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom? I'm like,
And renters are
Nice. I like renters, Jared. Send them my way. I love them.
Really? I will, absolutely. 100%. Just give me 20% and I'm happy.
Sure, let's do it.
Awesome. Yeah, no, for some reason, renters, they just take too much of my time, frankly. But
I'm in with that too, because you know what? I'll help you with that too, Jared, because I need to learn how to figure out those transactions anyways, right? So might as well get the ball rolling.
Absolutely. Well, I have 2 that I can send out to y'all right now. But give me a second. Okay. Cindy and Crystal, feel free to text me after class and I'll send you over some leads. Okay, so I think that's everybody. That's awesome. I, as always, like to show that I am also doing the same stuff. I have horrible numbers this week. So my number is, I believe it's like 3. No, that's bullshit. I did 40 contacts. I take that back. I did that on Thursday. But I had 2 appointments, so that was good. 6, 7, 8. So let's call it 8 in total. But yeah, so just so you know, we are all human. So sometimes we don't get the numbers that we're hoping to get. And I certainly fell a little bit short. I tried to get 150, but c'est la vie. All righty, let's get into it. Hey, Jared, I'm here paying attention.
Hey, Jared, it's Crystal.
Hey, Crystal, it's Jared.
Really quickly. So I just got a text from my mentor saying it's okay to submit my offer. So I'm going to jump off for a second and go ahead and submit the offer to the listing agent, and I'll jump back on.
Atta girl, handle it.
All right.
And give the listing agent a call when you submit it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, awesome. Good luck. Okay, so let's get after it. Let me share my screen real quick.
Hey, Jared. I just have a quick question. You were talking about disclosures earlier with George Gaspar.
Yes.
For example, if you do have an ADU that's not permitted, when if the buyer decides to still purchase the property, are they by law like required to tear it down, or can they rent it out?
You mean an ADU?
Yeah, or just like anything that's not permitted in the whether
I would say that I can't advise on what you do after you own the property. Does that make sense?
Okay.
My point is if they want to go ahead and rent it out, they can go on Craigslist and rent it out. I'm not gonna, tell on them.
No, I've just heard that. Like I've known a lot of people who have had units like that, and the city will come and tear everything down.
Interesting. I've never, I don't know anything about that. And I'm not trying to be a sleazy agent when I'm saying that. I really don't know. That's not, something that I, it's our job to tell our clients they need to do all their inspections and inspect it thoroughly. I know for a fact that a bunch of people rent out their garages to college students to live in. Is that, appropriate? I don't know. I lived in a garage once when I was in college, so I mean, I don't know. It's to me, it doesn't seem like a huge deal. Now, what do you mean by an ADU? Like it's not to code? Like it's dangerous? Like I don't know.
I don't know, a converted garage, for example. Like you said, you're living in a garage. Like they put a kitchen, they put a bathroom, they put a living room, and it's like a 1 bed. And then, because I've heard that if it's not permitted and not everything is up to date with the codes and the contractor, like you didn't get approval by the city. And if I don't know, you have bad neighbors and they're like, yeah, that girl's renting out her garage, she didn't even get it permit. I guess they could go to the city and say that someone is living there, they're collecting rent, and it's not permitted.
So in that situation, I would frankly say, listen, it's obviously hasn't been done with a permit. Technically speaking, some people's neighbors could potentially complain. And from what I understand, that could pose as an issue for you if you are renting it out. Now, whether or not your neighbor is going to tell on you or whatever, or if that's even a likely scenario, your guess is as good as mine. I would do a little bit of research on this buyer, and Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. I would do a little bit more research, and make your decision that way, because unfortunately I can't necessarily advise on that. I mean, frankly, I rented a garage out when I was in college, so to me there doesn't seem to be a huge deal. But there may be some legal reasons why you can't do that. And I would hate for you to, purchase a property under the assumption that you're going to rent it out just to find out that it wasn't done to code and the city's going to have an issue with it. So I would highly recommend doing your own due diligence. Now, that's what I would say because I don't know the answer to that, frankly. So I would maybe talk to somebody with a little bit more experience with, properties with ADUs and what the implications of that could be. But I haven't heard of that happening. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. Where did you hear about that from? Who did you hear?
Orange County. Like I live in Orange County, like borderline Whittier, LA, Orange County. And like we have neighbors and we know family members who it has happened to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like they had, a full bathroom, they were renting it out, and then next thing you know, the city comes and says, yeah, this isn't permitted, you have to tear it down.
Damn, that sucks. Yeah.
I've had the same happen with some relatives. Either they were asked to tear it down or bring it up to code in LA County.
Yeah, so it sounds like you got to do it to code.
Like, I don't know, I just know of a lot of people who have gone through this.
Yeah, so it sounds like the answer is Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. That's why we're going to get an inspection done. We're going to have a licensed contractor come in and inspect this up and down and see if anything's not to code. And just expect that we may have to go through the resubmittal process with the city to make sure that this is permitted. And what that could mean is literally opening up the walls and having an inspector come in to, check how it was built and to see the plumbing and to see this and to see that and, having the inspector say what it needs to be to come up to code. But, fully expect that may be the situation and that may be what has to happen. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that sounds scary. So, I would definitely be a little bit, conscientious of that. So keep that in mind. Awesome. But unfortunately, I haven't dealt with that personally. So I don't know the answer to that. I should probably look that up. But unfortunately, I can't advise you on that right now. Which is also what I would say to a buyer, unfortunately, in this moment. But I would probably, if I had a buyer who was very concerned about an ADU, I would probably have them go ahead and I would probably do a little bit more research on that and try to help them out to figure that out. But sorry, I'm sorry I can't help you with that answer right now.
Jared, I had a quick question.
Sure.
Talking about ADUs. I'm noticing more and more that some real estates are putting professional ADU specialists or something. Do we have to take like a certain class or something in order for us to say that we work with ADUs or something?
I don't think so. No. No. I think that they just took a class and somebody got a lot of money to get a designation.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
No worries. Now, by the by, probably wouldn't hurt to take that class, but from my knowledge, there's no ADU specialist certificate that's acknowledged by the DRE. If that's no, I don't believe so. Absolutely.
Okay.
But it sounds like there's maybe somebody who has a class that they say, we'll give you an ADU specialist certificate if at completion of this class. Does that certificate really mean anything? No, it's just something that you could put at the end of your name. From my understanding, there may have something that came out recently that states that you have to be an ADU specialist. But from what I understand, if we can sell a multi-unit condominium with just our real estate license, I don't understand why we'd have to have a designation for an ADU specialist. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I thought the same thing. I was just wondering, like, did I miss something? Because
I don't think you did. I don't think you missed
okay,
it.
thank you.
No problem. For example, there's somebody who at Rodeo Realty who had senior living specialist. I don't know what that means. Frankly, I think that they just took a class and they have a little certificate that was printed out on a piece of paper.
I was on car and I saw that they even have like how to move people with pets. Like there's like a class that you could take for people with pets.
Sure.
So I was like, okay, anything's possible. So I was like, I'm just gonna ask.
Yeah,
and see
but but Carr, for example, Carr won't give you a designation as a pet specialist. They're just giving you a good class on what to do should your clients have pets, and which is great. It's good to know. It's all good stuff.
Good
All
to
right.
know. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. So today is all about negotiating the deal, which I love negotiation. So this is one of my favorite classes. We're probably, because we took a while going through our numbers today. So we're probably going to run until probably 1:30, 2 o'clock, just so you know. If you're getting bored or you need to run, don't worry. You don't have to type a message to me. I totally understand. Just feel free to dip out or maybe say goodbye or whatever before you go, but all good in the hood. We're good. So let's talk about what we're going to be doing today. Negotiations are an integral part of most real estate transactions. In fact, they are so important that in 2014, the National Association of Realtors survey of buyers and sellers, negotiations ranked second on the list of what buyers most want most from their agents, and ranked sixth in what sellers want from their agents, which is strange. I would think you'd want a really good negotiator if you're representing the seller. Anyway, as with the offer process, negotiation is a pivotal point. It can literally be the deal maker or the deal breaker. Negotiations can actually happen twice during the contract process: during the offer phase with the goal of getting a contract, and during the option period while under contract for the goal of closing the contract. And that is something that is huge right there. And I want us not to forget that, especially right now in this class. Why is it the way we negotiate during the offer phase, is it different from how we negotiate once we're in contract? Do you think the styles of negotiation might be a little bit different when we're talking with the real estate agent? Let's say we're representing the buyer. For example, are we going to be aggressive before we're in contract? Or are we going to try to sound like we're trying to get the seller what they want as much as possible? What does your seller want? What are they looking for in the offer? Are we going to be a little bit more passive in that term? Maybe not passive, but are we going to seem like we're going to be a little bit easier to work with maybe versus once we're in contract?
Yeah.
And we're doing inspections and we're trying to get money off. So for example, when I'm writing an offer to a listing agent or for a buyer to the listing agent, I'm going to be looking up and down the MLS, trying to figure out a comparative market analysis to find what was happening in the agent's mind when they priced this house. Do I look at all the comps and the price is about 10% under market value, which, as we know as agents, is a very good tactic to get a lot of the market share looking at your property. Remember, how many people was that if you're 10% below market value? It's upward to like 70% of the market share who's looking in that price range. You're gonna get 70% of the buyers going to that house. Versus if you are right at market value, you'll get how many? What percentage was that? 60% of the market share you're probably on average going to get looking at the property. I'd much rather want 70% than 60. So oftentimes when I'm pricing a property, if the seller, and I'm negotiating with the seller before we put it on the market, by the by, there's another negotiation there. I want them to understand that it is in their best interest to not price it in the dirt, but just price it low enough that we get a lot of interest in the property. And for example, one of the properties that I sold recently in Santa Clarita, not an area that I'm a specialist in. It was a divorce attorney who selected me. He likes the way I operate. So he wanted me to represent his sellers or his clients, excuse me. And so when I was talking with them, I went over the differences between listing right at market value and listing it slightly below market value. And so 10% on that price range is, 20, 30,000, something like that. So sure enough, we priced it below that market value. And we received over 20 offers with over 100, showings over the weekend. And so my point that I'm trying to make is that was a tactic that I used And every single agent who contacted me, they went, so you don't think it's going to go for this, right? And I'm like, no, I don't, frankly. Yeah, this is real estate 101. I priced it as a teaser price to get eyes on it. And absolutely, I would highly recommend coming in, as sharp as you can. So anyway, but the point is that I wanted to get back to on this is during the offer phase, how are we going to be, let's say we're representing the buyer, how are we going to be approaching that listing agent? So there's price, and then what, other than price, what could we negotiate on?
Negotiate contingency, negotiate
Yep.
inspection, appraisals.
Yep. Terms. We can negotiate on terms. So in this type of market where it is such an advantage for the sellers right now, what might we want to take a look at in terms of our offer that we're writing? Do we want to maybe shorten our inspection period? Could we even go as far as to waiving the appraisal? That's a little bit of a tricky one. You really need to discuss with your buyer ahead of time and make sure they fully understand what it means to waive the appraisal contingency.
Waiving the appraisal contingency is a little bit more benefit to the seller, correct?
Correct, absolutely. So now, why is it, how come in some situations I might feel very confident in waiving the appraisal contingency? Maybe I know that the house was built in 1975 and we are going to find a bunch of issues with the code compliance. When we're going through the inspection process, I am fairly confident that this was built in 1975. I asked the listing agent, has there been any upgrades since the client purchased the property back in 1980? It was built in 75, but they purchased in 1980. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident that I'm going to be able to get some money off for our clients. Now, there may be an agent who's, screams absolutely no credits, no repairs, no nothing. That may be the case, but in my experience, that's not always the case. So, I may, as long as we are within reason for one, I would probably talk with my buyer and say, hey, listen, worst case scenario, we make this offer, it doesn't appraise, would you be willing to pay the difference on the loan? And if they are, then I'm okay with that. Then I'm okay with waiving the appraisal contingency. Now, if I'm talking with the buyer, I may also say, listen, we can go in with no appraisal contingency and maybe a 10-day inspection contingency. But when we're doing our 10-day inspection, we are going to throw everything everything at this house as far as inspections. We're going to get a structural report. We're going to get electrical. We're going to get a plumbing. We're going to get our general, of course. We are going to maybe even do an asbestos investigation, depending on when the house was built. And the reason for all of this is after we're done inspecting this entire house, we're going to get a laundry list of repairs that need to be done. And once we are in escrow, what does that seller have to do if we do all these investigations? If, God forbid, we fell out of escrow, they have to disclose everything that we found to the next potential buyer. So every single report that we came up with, they have to disclose that to the buyer because now it is a material fact of the property. So the point is that if you feel very strongly, and this is a little bit more advanced, you may be okay with waiving the appraisal contingency because you are under the impression that you might be able to get a lot of money off in repairs or credit to your buyer, or maybe a reduction in purchase price to make it work. The point is that there's a lot of tricks that we can do in making our offer seem very, very attractive to that listing agent. And then, all of a sudden we totally flip it on their head once we're in contract. So that's during the offer phase where we're trying to make our offer seem as appealing as possible to the listing agent. We're trying to make it seem like, hey, we're on the same team here. We're trying to get our clients to come to an agreement on a deal. I'm representing my buyer's best interest. You're representing your seller's best interest. Because my buyer loves this property so much, what is in your seller's best interest so we can sharpen our offer up as much as possible, and look for the things. Do they need a rent back? Do they need to stay in the property for an extended period of time? Do they, I don't know, whatever it might be. Then once we're in escrow, that's where my fangs are going to come out. Now, I'm not going to be rude to the listing agent. I'm not going to be mean, but I am going to be very strong and purposeful with what we're requesting in regards to our repairs. We are going to be a little bit more aggressive, so to speak, once we're in escrow. So keep that in mind. There's different styles of negotiation, and also, by the by, when we are negotiating money off, we're trying to be as fair as possible. We're not trying to rake them over the coals, so to speak, even though it might feel that way to the listing agent. But we want to keep in mind that there, you're going to attract more more bees with honey, or whatever. Anyway, so keep all these in mind when we're talking about negotiation. So again, we're going to go over my favorite little picture that I love to refer to. What do we always start with? It's leads. The more leads we get, the more appointments we get. More appointments, the more agreements. The more agreements, the more contracts. And hopefully we're in contract. Let me just take this really quickly. Sorry. Hello, this is Jared. So sorry, I think you have the wrong number. Maybe try the area code. I'm a real estate agent. I'm not the Union Trust, but if you're looking to buy or sell a house, I could really help you out there. Absolutely. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, so making it happen, negotiations. Are there any questions in regards to negotiating before getting into contract or after you're in contract? We're going to go over it a lot more in this class, but just out of curiosity. Awesome. Okay, making it happen. You may not realize, but you're almost always negotiating. Every single day you're in a negotiation. When there is something that you want, that new car for the price you want to pay, for your friend to see your point of view in an argument, or for your child to do the dishes, the truth is whatever you want is often owned and controlled by someone else. The way to get what you want is through negotiation. Negotiation, bargaining, give and take, process between two or more parties, each with its own aims, needs, and viewpoints, seeking to discover a common ground to reach an agreement to settle a matter of mutual concern or resolve a conflict. So what are some negotiations that you could think of that you've been in your life? Come on, everybody. I'm going to start calling on
hourly pay of a company.
Sure. Absolutely. Negotiating your worth, 100%. For us, our commission is often up for negotiation in the terms of the eyes of the seller. But we need it. We all know how to negotiate that. So, how would we negotiate our commission with somebody?
Oh, by the way, the commission between the seller and the agent is negotiable or no?
Absolutely, everything's negotiable.
Okay.
Yeah. But we try not to negotiate our commissions away. We're not discount brokers. And oftentimes, so George, let's do a little role play. You're a seller and I'm your agent, and you don't want to pay 5%. Let's try that. So say, Jared, I don't want to really pay you 5%.
Jared, I didn't even want to work with the agent before, so now I have to pay 5%. I really want to pay 5% of the sale.
I understand that. So you're saying that you're concerned about the commission. Is that correct?
Yes.
So if I'm willing to negotiate my money away so readily, what do you think is going to happen when we're in escrow and somebody's asking for a price reduction?
That's true.
So if I'm willing to negotiate my money away, wouldn't you be concerned that I'm willing to negotiate your bottom line away? no, it wouldn't make sense. And I do this for a living professionally. So no, unfortunately, I don't negotiate my commission. It is standard across the industry. And plus, if you look at the statistics in the National Association of Realtors, typically we more than pay for ourselves with our commission with what we get during a sale price. If you look at my numbers, I get on average 105% of the sale price, which means on average I'm getting more than what I'm selling the property for. So if we're talking about a 5% commission, I already make it up on my averages. That means there are other properties that I'm getting, 110% of the sale price, of the ask price. So my point is while I respect, your concern about your bottom line, I wouldn't be good at what I did if I wasn't confident that I could achieve that. So, those are some things that I would keep in mind when we're talking about that with people. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll say, listen, I charge a 6%, which is the standard commission. So blah, 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 blah. And they go, oh, 6%. Well, could you do anything better? Listen, I don't typically do this, but if we can agree right now on 5%, let's go ahead, sign the contract, and I'll still include all the different marketing materials that I was planning on doing. And why am I willing to go down to 5%? Because typically that's what I always do it for, 5%. So I'm really actually just setting the bar a little bit high and meeting them down a little bit low. So that's a little bit of a negotiation tactic that I've also used in the past. Okay, in real estate, negotiations occur between agents and their clients. So we have the buyer's agent negotiating with the buyer, and the buyer's negotiating with the buyer's agent. The buyer's agent's negotiating with the listing agent, and the seller is also negotiating with the listing agent. So it's this big circle that's going around, and it's a big washing machine. So very cool. So let's go ahead. We have a video that we're going to watch. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Sorry, I thought I had it up, but I guess I don't. One moment. Okay. Let's see, negotiations with Josh Anderson. Strong name. Okay. And I think he was one of the Property Brothers. I don't know, maybe he's not, I don't know, but here we go.
Hi, I'm Josh Anderson.
Hold on one second. Let me make sure I'm sharing this. Okay, let's have a quick discussion after this video.
From Nashville, Tennessee. I've been with Keller Williams since 2000. Hi, I'm Josh Anderson from Nashville, Tennessee. I've been with Keller Williams since 2006. 2014, we did about 200 transactions for about $60 million in volume. I grew up on a farm, so I've always seen my dad negotiating land and cows and horses, being the youngest of four, and I'm trading and negotiating with my brothers all growing up. So I've kind of done it all the time. Some people are certainly gravitate toward it and are naturally better at it than others. But I think that negotiation can definitely be learned. I think there's a lot of skills that go into being a great negotiator. I think it's learning your client. Instead of kind of assuming that you know what's important to them, really asking a lot of questions and letting them tell you what they need or want, and then speaking to the other agent and finding out what's most important to their client. And there's some agents that just don't give any. When I have an agent that I'm dealing with that's very tight-lipped, I just keep asking questions, and they give me information that they might not have otherwise given, whether it's a divorce or a death, or it's just they got relocated to some other city. And I think if you're really listening and being intentional and purposeful about listening, you'll find out exactly what's important to them or what they have to have. In certain situations, you have to be creative. We're always looking for that next little tip to help our clients out and win the deals. One of the techniques that we've used a lot that's worked well for us is the escalation clause. For example, if the property is listed at $250,000, we might go in at $250,000 with strong terms, and in special stipulations, we might put in there that we're willing to beat the next best documented offer by $1,000 up to $263,000. And the best offer might be $261,000, so we end up getting it for $262,000. From a client standpoint, be willing to have a real conversation with your clients. It's not us just being realtors for them. It's us consulting and advising and really telling them, if you really want this property, here's what you have to do to get it. Everybody's got a different way of how they would negotiate. And networking with other Keller Williams agents around the country, the more you hear it, the more ideas you get. And then you end up gearing it towards you and what you think is going to work best for you and your clients. A lot of it comes down to experience, and I think the more deals you do, the more comfortable you get with it. If you can step back from every transaction and learn something, you're going to get really good over time.
Awesome. So what are some things that stood out to us in that video?
He said that you can learn. It's like a skill you can learn. Like if you think you're not good at it, you can get good at it.
Definitely, 100%. You know, a lot of negotiations for me is having the tools for the negotiation. For example, he was saying an escalation clause, and that's what that's what he was referring to in that video, is saying that if somebody else outbids me, I'm willing to beat them by $1,000, and up to a certain amount. And that's what an escalation clause would be. You are willing to beat them out to a certain point. Now, I would always recommend having a cap on that, so we know what it is, and also documented offer, meaning that we will only go up to there if you can show that you have documentation of it, meaning you're going to show us the price that we're beating. So that is something that is very, very valuable, especially in today's market, having an escalation clause basically stating that we're willing to beat out the next person by up to $1,000, maybe $5,000, maybe $10,000. You might want to make it even juicier for them to go, oh wow, they're really serious, they want this house. So again, feel free to have, but before you're doing that, you want to have a frank and honest conversation with your buyers. And if you're not having that conversation directly with them, you're not doing your job, because you really don't want to get into an escrow situation where your client goes, well, wait a second, how much are we going to be going into escrow for? The point is that's why we have that cap where it's like up to this amount of dollars. So and being professionally honest too. Don't be afraid to say to your buyer, this is what we're going to need to do if you really want it. I'm thinking of this, frankly, I'm representing a buyer right now in Santa Barbara, and it reminds me of, she asked me, well, what do you think the house is going to go for? And I flat out said, I think it's going to go for $1,100,000. Why? That's literally 10% up from where it was listed at. And why did I feel so strongly about that? Because I looked at the comps in the market, what has sold, and that would have been the perfect price for the property is $1,100,000. So I knew that the listing agent pretty much looked at all the comps and they said, okay, we're just going to go 10% below market value. And in discussing with them, with my buyers, I explained, I know this is the first offer that we're writing on a house, but keep in mind that this property is likely going to go for $1.1 million. And, the daughter, my friend, who's the daughter of the parents the parents are helping her with the down payment. My friend was like fully on board. I've built rapport with her. I've gone to college with her. She trusts me. I trust her. It's more of a friendship. And now it's turning into a professional relationship as well. So she fully trusted me. Do you think her parents trusted me? Not so much. They've never talked with me. They've never met me. And in fact, up until this offer, we had never even spoken on the phone. And I kept saying to, my friend slash client, I'd really like to talk to your parents directly. That way you don't have to be an intermediary. We can hash out any, issues that they may have, or confusions that they may have, concerns they may have in the offer process. The last time they bought a house was in the 80s. So the market is completely different. They kept saying, I don't want to go into a bidding war, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the point is, we had this conversation back and forth, and then eventually, because it was going between me to my friend Victoria, to her parents, who are by the by in Switzerland right now. So the conversation was getting piecemealed to the parents, and they were saying, this real estate agent just wants, a higher commission, and blah 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 blah, and who controls all of this? Does a buyer agent pay the commission? Does a buyer pay the commission, or does the seller pay the commission? The seller's paying the commission. So when I had the conversation with them, I explained to them, listen, we're at $1,050,000 right now. The gap, I believe, is another 50,000 on top of us. Let's go ahead and have the conversation and see if we're willing to go up to $1,000,001. And they were saying, well, why would they? Anyway, the point is we went back and forth, and sure enough, the contract that they're in escrow with now is at $1,000,001, and we're in backup position number one right now at $1,075,000. The reason why we're at $1,075,000 is it's $1,000,001's at the top of the price point, and there was an addition done that is not technically part of the structure, so it doesn't increase the square footage amount. If it was part of the square footage, it would be at $1,000,001, but because it's technically not, there may be an issue with the appraisal value, and we have an appraisal contingency in place. So that's why they went down to $1,075,000 with us for the backup position one. And the way I figured all this stuff out is through research and negotiations. Because I flat out explained to the listing agent, I was like, listen, fine, we can be backup position number one, but do you think it would be in our best interest to be, maybe do backup position number one at $1,075,000? Because we have a feeling that the other people have a appraisal contingency in place, and that's the only reason why they may balk from this sale. So he agreed, and we're in backup position number one at $1,075,000, and that was all done through a negotiation. And the more important thing is, I came from a place of integrity when I was having these conversations with Victoria and her parents, and the parents have now determined that I am 100% on the up and up, that my recommendations only come from a place of, if you want this property, this is what you likely will need to do to get it. And everything that I have said to them leading up to this point has come true. And so having that professional honesty, while it might be a difficult conversation at first, because at first the parents were like, you just want a higher commission. I also had to explain to the parent, listen, if we sell the house at $1,050,000 versus $1,001,000, the commission for me is negligible. The difference between that is, a couple $100 maybe, like, you know what I mean? So that's not my motive. That's not my driving factor for why I want you to come up. The reason why I want you to come up is because in my experience, this is where the price is going to be. And sure enough, we missed the opportunity to resubmit our offer, but we are now at least backup position number one. And more importantly, the parents realize I'm treating them fairly. And that's another thing that I like to always say in negotiations. At any point in this conversation, if you feel that I'm treating you unfairly, I'd like you to let me know. My goal is to treat you with the utmost respect and fairness as possible. I got that from a guy named Chris Voss. And if anybody knows who Chris Voss is, he teaches a master class on negotiation. He is literally a negotiator for the FBI, or he used to be. And he is a master at the skill of negotiations. And what he has learned in that is applicable to almost any business, and definitely somebody I highly recommend looking up and checking out their negotiation tactics and styles. Are there any questions, comments that we have in regards to what we just learned from that video? Awesome. Okay, negotiation tips. If I could have, I'm going to pick somebody right now to read. If I could have Diana Munoz read negotiation tips, and down to don't attach yourself to the outcome.
Okay. So keep the following tips in mind as you work toward mastery in negotiation. Above all else, be professional. Remember your goal, a signed contract. This is what you're driving toward, and it's what both agents and their clients have in mind. Control what you say to anyone involved in the transaction. If you create anxiety in your client or other parties, you are reducing their leverage in negotiations. Continually refer back to motivation. Remind your client that they want to buy or sell and help them reevaluate their request if they are becoming unreasonable. Don't reveal too much. Listen more than talk. Keep your client's motivation close to your chest. Don't be attached to the outcome. You'll do hundreds or thousands of transactions in your career, and there is no way you can get everything you and your clients want all the time. Don't let it affect your mindset if a deal doesn't go through or if your client doesn't act on your recommendation. Find a different win for your client.
Awesome. Any nuggets of gold in that we just read? Anything that stood out to you, Diana?
Don't get too attached to the outcome. I guess you can't always, you can, what is it called? You can win the war, but not all the little battles. So if
Yeah.
something, if as long as you get the house, you might have to give or take, like, oh, we weren't able to get this, but we did get this.
Yeah. 100%. And, for example, don't be attached with the outcome. That's huge. Control what you say to anyone involved in the transaction. If you create anxiety in your clients or other parties, you're reducing their leverage in negotiations. So, for example, the parents that I was dealing with in this deal, they were like, no, we're going to tell them that we're going to stay at $1,050,000 and then that's it. And they were creating this like kind of like drama-filled process in just submitting the offer. And I said to them, I was like, listen, if you were the listing agent, do you want to work with the client who is easygoing? Yeah, tell us what you want. We want to get you what you want. Do you want to work with that person up front or the person who's already, creating, drama and contention and all that kind of stuff? I think you're going to want the person who seems easier to work with. And I explained to them, our goal right now is to get into contract. Once we get into contract, then we can show our fangs a little bit. Then we could start going, oh, you know what? We just realized the paint, we're going to have to repaint the entire house and we're going to have to do this and we're going to have to redo the foundation, or we're going to have to redo the plumbing, or I had talked to them that they said as long as it's sealed, they don't care too much about asbestos. That was a nugget of gold for me to realize, because a lot of these homes do have asbestos in them. But as long as they were, done correctly by a contractor and sealed, they're okay with that. But if we're in the investigation process and we find, or the inspection process, and we find that, do I have to disclose that to the seller that my buyer is okay with a little bit of asbestos as long as it's been sealed properly? I don't have to tell them that. I'm negotiating a deal. So all of a sudden that was not such a big deal to my client is now a huge deal to us, quote unquote. And we're asking for, $20,000 worth of credits back. Maybe we can't do that because of the lending limits, but maybe we can do a reduction in purchase price of $20,000. So my point is that we want to keep all of these things close to our chest and controlling our clients' emotions in the offer process and explaining, hey, listen, let's get a little bit, mean once we're in escrow. But until we're in escrow, we want to seem very easy to work with. Now, and don't be attached to the outcome. We didn't get into escrow. I was positive that if they just trusted me fully, we would 100% get that property. And I was right. If we did come up to that amount, the listing agent said, gosh, they really liked your offer. There was, it was a much cleaner offer, but it was just, about the price. And, the other people were willing to come up. So be it. I didn't get the outcome that I wanted, but I got the conversation that I needed to have with the parents who are doing the down payment for the house out of the way. And so for the next property that we're writing an offer on, that communication, that conversation, that negotiation is going to go much more smoothly. And that frankly was a little battle that I needed to win, frankly, so I could win the war. And the war is finding them a property that they end up becoming homeowners with. So don't be too attached to the outcome. We're not going to win them all. That's okay. And more importantly, did we learn something from it? As long as we're learning something, whether our buyer's learning something about the process, our seller's learning something about the process, we are learning something about the process. These are all amazing things that we could use to leverage ourselves up to be, a better offer or a better outcome. So good stuff. Always refer back to motivation. Remind your clients why they want to buy or sell to help them reevaluate their request if they are becoming unreasonable. That is huge. We want to we're basically taking notes. When we're listening to what our buyer wants, when we're listening to what our seller wants, we're taking little mental notes. Maybe we're actually taking literal notes so we can, refer back to them, which I actually recommend doing. So when all of a sudden they're going, oh yeah, they're $5,000 below what we wanted to sell it for. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I understand that. $5,000 less. But isn't the whole purpose of selling so you could move to Florida so you can be closer to your friends and family who moved out there? Yeah. Is $5,000 really going to make the difference for you to see that happen in the time frame that you wanted? Maybe. So let's say we close $5,000 less, mind you, than what we were hoping for. But that means we're able to close in 30 days versus getting out of escrow, trying to go back into showing the property, and then getting another person to get into escrow with. That could take another 2 weeks. And at that time, you're about to pay another payment on your mortgage, which could be, the difference of that $5,000 that we're arguing over. So let's do the right thing. Let's go ahead and just accept this offer, because in the grand scheme of things, if we have to take it off the market again, put it back on the market, and then find another buyer, we may lose that $5,000 that we would have had that you're upset over right now in the next couple months, just because of maintenance, because of wanting to clean the property between showings, between mortgage payments, utilities, etc. So that $5,000, maybe we don't need to worry about it too much. So always refer back to their motivation, because sometimes we can make it a little bit clearer to them of why this is still an awesome offer. Okay, common points of negotiation. Let's see, I got a message from someone. That way I don't call on somebody who's not in the class. My chat's not coming up for some reason. And I have to leave. Okay, no worries, David. Okay, if I could have, let's see, let's pick somebody new. Taylor Smith, could you read common points of negotiation?
Which points did you say to read?
Let's go all the way down to earnest money and option fee.
Okay. Common points of negotiation. During the negotiation process, price and terms are common points of negotiation. In price, while the sales price is the primary factor in negotiations, it is not necessarily the bottom line. In a situation where a seller receives multiple offers at the same price, it is the terms of those offers, in addition to the buyer's financial position, that will determine which one wins. 2, terms. The terms of an offer may be financial or time-based, or both. When the buyer and the seller can't agree on a sales price, the following 5 offer terms come into play. Closing costs. Traditionally paid by the buyer, closing costs are in addition to the purchase price. Securing the cash to pay these expenses can be difficult for some, especially for first-time home buyers. Therefore, the seller may be asked to pay a portion of the closing costs. When you represent a seller, make your client aware that it's common for buyers to ask for part of the closing costs to be covered by them and what their options are. Closing date. When the seller has a very specific time frame for moving, the buyer has the upper hand and can leverage this by being more flexible with the closing date and less flexible with the offer price. Conveyances. While conveyances are defined by a locality's board of realtors, the general rule of thumb is that attached fixtures stay with the home and non-realty items, personal property, go with the seller. In negotiations, a buyer may request that certain personal property items stay with the home, such as furniture, window treatments, or a refrigerator. An earnest money and option fee. It is in the seller's best interest for the buyer to put as much into escrow as possible as soon as possible. When a locality's board of realtors has a standard price for when earnest money and option fee where applicable is deposited, the amount is often negotiated.
Awesome. And repairs. Most offers are contingent on the outcome of the home investigation and necessary repairs. And I've gone over that a couple times already today. Depending on the complexity of the repairs, buyers may ask the seller to make the repairs prior to closing, subject to a follow-up inspection, deduct the cost of repairs from the sales price, or pay a lump sum at closing to cover the costs. This is one of my favorite things to do to get the price down for my buyers. Sometimes there are necessary repairs and they absolutely are going to spend every penny of that on the repairs. But other times it may be a way to negotiate the price down a little bit. They may not actually be doing all those repairs, frankly, or they were already planning on doing it anyway, but they're just using it as a way to get the price down. For example, somebody who's making an offer on a fixer, they already know that they're going to be doing all these repairs anyway. They already know that they're going to be gutting the house to begin with, but they go through the inspection process and they go, oh gosh, we found out all this stuff is, yeah, we're going to have to ask for $100,000 off. And that happens. I've had that happen on a property when I was representing the sellers. And sure enough, we did end up giving some money back, and we negotiated to about $30,000 instead of $100,000. Mainly because I said, listen, your client already divulged to me that they're going to be gutting this entire place. So let's be reasonable here. We can agree to some of this, but not all of it. And that was a good win-win for everybody. Anything that stood out for anybody during this? Conveyances, closing date, closing costs, earnest money and option fee. Mainly, that terms are often the deciding factor in addition to price. When everything's all the same, terms are what's going to stand out the most to the seller or the buyer, frankly, in writing an offer. Okay, 3 Ps to approach. Negotiation skills can be learned and perfected with experience. The best practice for negotiating and bringing your buyer and seller together is through the 3 Ps approach. Prepare, present, and position. Prepare. Know your goal. Have a clear goal in reaching a win-win agreement in which both the buyer and seller are satisfied with the outcome of the negotiation. Know your client. Make sure you fully understand your client's goals. Learn the areas in which they are willing to negotiate and where they stand firm. For example, I know from my client, they will not do anything with the appraisal contingency. They are going to keep that no matter what. That is not something that I'm even going to bring up unless I feel that our offer is already going to appraise. And even then, I would be very careful in how I would approach that to them. Think ahead. Anticipate the other party's wants out of the negotiation. Write down how you think they may counter the offer and how you plan to handle it. That's game planning it out. Play it out in your head. If I ask for this, how are they going to respond to that? And if they respond that way, how am I going to respond back to them? Already have the steps figured out ahead of time, and even have that conversation with your buyer or seller ahead of time. If somebody does this, how are we going to respond? If somebody does that, how are we going to respond? And just so we kind of set the playing field in a very in a way that you can navigate it very, very efficiently. Time is of the essence, so we don't want to waste too much time, trying to read between the lines. So have the conversations ahead of time. Set clear expectations. Prior to meeting with the other party, set clear and realistic expectations with your clients, which basically is what I was just referring to, and then under promise and over deliver. Stress the importance of moving quickly to create a sense of urgency. Part of setting clear expectations with your clients is being clear with the win-lose agreements that win-lose agreements are likely to be rejected by the other side. Set yourself up for success. Make it win-win. Awesome. And again, that's something that I want to stress upon. When I'm negotiating, money off on a deal, I want them to feel, I want, for example, if I'm negotiating on behalf of a buyer, I want the listing agent to understand that what we're asking for is fair. It is not, we're not trying to, rake them over the coals or anything like that. We're just asking for what's fair. And if, something comes up in an inspection that really, is something that may be of concern, even if your buyer frankly said, it's not a big deal to me, you might want to write that in anyway, because it is still fair. Maybe the buyer, maybe the plumbing is galvanized, but your buyer has no problem with that. They don't care. But you might want to say to the listing agent, gosh, we found out the plumbing's galvanized. They really want copper plumbing. That's why we're asking for a certain amount off. And this is fair because here are the downsides with galvanized plumbing, for example. And negotiate on behalf of your client. So anyway, be informed before making an offer or counteroffer. It's good practice to speak with 2 other agents, ask open-ended questions, and use active listening to find out as much as you can about the property and their agent. This helps with whom you are negotiating, on what points you will negotiate, and where you and your client have leverage. Obey the laws. Every state and locality has its own set of laws that regulates zoning, mortgage qualifications, and other real estate matters. Stay current on your local regulations and stay out of court. That's a big one too. Know the documents inside and out. Become familiar with your local board of realtors governing forms. Take the time needed to understand the form templates that belong in each field. 83% of buyers consider negotiation skills to be very important when working with a real estate agent. So always good to know. Okay. So we're going to prepare to negotiate. Read the scenario below. Identify the key areas in which you need more information or certainty before you could confidently negotiate on your client's behalf. Write 3 specific questions you would ask your client in the space provided below. So, okay, I'm going to pick some people randomly. Here is our scenario. So everybody perk those ears up real quick. Think about this for a second. You are representing a single buyer. Your client is renting her personal property. Like any first-time buyer, she is looking to you to guide her through the process. The asking price for the home she really loves is $175,000. The house appears to have evidence of a roof leak, is listed as is, and is correctly priced. Your client would like to keep her payments as low as possible since she has a number of student loans to pay off. She wants to write an offer for $155,000. There has been quite a bit of activity on the listing. So, what are some things that we would try to negotiate on for this property? And what might we need a little more info on?
Obviously,
You're
like,
asking? Oh,
sorry. I was just gonna say, obviously, the extent of the roof leak.
Yeah, that could be huge. Roofs can be expensive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're let's see. Hold on one second. So, I mean, we're about $20,000 off for the list price. So there's a lot of activity on this property, but we also know that there is a roof leak. Now it says as is. They're going to sell the house as is, meaning they're not going to try to do any type of credits or repairs or anything like that. But is that always true? No, it's not. Frankly, you could probably negotiate down if your client were to come up a little bit. So maybe we have a conversation with our client and say, hey, I know that you want the property for 155,000. The difference between 155,000 and 175,000 is about 20,000. Do you know what that would be on a mortgage, your monthly payment? How different that would be? Dollars, maybe 10 bucks, 20 bucks, 30 bucks, something like that. It's nothing. Now, knowing that it's not going to be a huge difference in your monthly payment, obviously your down payment is going to increase a little bit. And let's just assume that down payment is an appropriate amount for her to be able to, submit. And let's say she's approved for, 200,000, which we don't have that information here, unfortunately. So my point is we might want to ask our lender, hey, how much are we actually approved for? Can we go up to 200,000? Can we go up to 175,000? Maybe yes. Okay, great. Let's find that out. Let's talk to our client and see if that price difference could be manageable. And then plus, if there's a roof leak, couldn't we possibly get it for less than what it's listed for if we go into an investigation or inspections? Maybe. So the point is there's a lot of things that we could be looking at here in terms of, one, we need some more information on our buyer. Where are they approved at? What can they go up to? What do they feel comfortable paying monthly? Knowing that it's only a $20,000 difference and it's on a loan, that might not be a deal breaker. So we want to have that conversation with our client. And then also, because the roof looks like it has some damage, we're probably going to have a roof contractor go in and give us a quote for a new roof. And so my point is we could very easily go in at 175, and then actually when all things are said and done through inspections and all that fun stuff, we might be down to 155. And remind our clients that, hey, listen, as long as we're in the inspection period, we can walk away, no harm, no foul, and not lose any money on this. You'll get your EMD back, basically. So my point is I would probably advise my client in this situation to, let's see, it's appropriately priced. There's a lot of activity on this property. Let's go in and ask price, and then let's see if we can negotiate down from there. If we can't, let's go ahead and walk away from the deal. No harm, no foul, no big deal. What are some things that maybe you would want to, ask your clients or negotiate upon here?
Can you repeat the question one more time? Sorry.
Sure.
Please.
Well, I mean, it's a scenario, so it's kind of an open-ended kind of discussion that we're having. But the situation is she really likes a house that's for 175,000. She wants to offer 155,000. She's concerned about paying off her student loans. So maybe what else could we ask her in regards to this? Maybe how much are your student loans?
That's true.
So there's a lot of information that we could try to look for in this situation. And there's no right or wrong answers, by the by. This is just what we think we can find in this scenario that we could get a little more information on. What are some points that we could probably negotiate on? The difference of $20,000 on a mortgage is negligible. It's really, we're talking a couple cups of coffee a week. If we can eliminate that out of our lives and use some Keurig pods or something instead, we can make that up just in the difference of $20,000. So those are some things that we could probably consider. Okay. Move into the negotiation process by presenting your current offer to the cooperating agent, all right, and listening to the response. Call the other agent. Let them know the offer or counter offer is coming. Then invite them into the buying loop on the, we don't use the Edge anymore. So we're going to want to call the listing agent, and we're going to have a little conversation. This is like the first part of negotiations, in my opinion. You're going to call the listing agent and let them know, hey, we're writing an offer. this is a great time to ask them, what are they looking for in an offer? And then maybe say, hey, we're thinking about writing an offer around this. What do you think? And then the next part of this is pay attention to nonverbal cues. While it's not always possible or practical to make your presentation in person or face-to-face, excuse me, okay. A face-to-face meeting allows you to analyze body language and facial expressions. Otherwise, presenting your offer by phone and listening for verbal cues. So I'm going to want to hear what the agent is saying when I'm presenting offers. I want to be in a very, very calm place when I'm making that phone call, because I am going to be listening to some verbal cues, maybe some nonverbal like sighs, a pause, a yeah, okay. Anyway, so stuff like that can be very, very telling in this situation. Keep quiet once you present an offer. Sometimes letting the other person do most of the talking is the most powerful negotiation technique because of what they will reveal. This is big. When you're talking to an agent and they start going motor mouth, that's time for us to shut up and start taking notes and just listen to what they're saying, because they may actually reveal a lot more than they anticipated. Listen carefully to what is important to the other party. Write down what they say to demonstrate that you are taking them seriously, and then move on. And then move on. I think then move on it. Anyway, I think they missed an it there. Anyway, so for example, listen to what the other party's saying, write it down, make sure you're taking good notes, and because those are little nuggets of gold. Stay calm and relax. Either party may have a strong emotional reaction to the price or other terms of the offer. Be a calming influence until they are able to see the situation rationally again. Remember, you are there as a representative for your client. Keep your emotions out of it. Absolutely. Focus on the customer's need. Isolate the objections of both sides and offer solutions that will satisfy the other party while still meeting your client's core needs. Give your offer the best chance. Be confident and committed to your offer as you present it. Avoid indicating to the other side if you believe it is less than a great offer for them. So for example, let's say you're coming in under asking price. Be very confident when you're submitting that, and listen to what they say after you submit the offer. Be calm, be more in a listening mode than a telling mode. So you want to hear what they have to say once you submit that offer, because these will be very good little nuggets of gold. So for example, if you're going to get into a situation where they're presenting counter offers, that is in that moment when you just originally presented that first offer, you might hear what you need to hear to make your counter offer just that much better. So these are all important stuff. Remember, the Keller Williams belief, win-win or no deal. Absolutely. Okay. So what are some nonverbal cues that we could possibly receive from our buyers, from our sellers, from the listing agent, for example?
I always can tell what people are thinking from their eyes a lot of times.
Totally. I agree with you, Amber, 100%. Let's say, Amber, you submit, I have a listing that is $2 million and you submit a 1.75 offer. Let's say you do that and I go,
yeah,
it's not good. Obviously, we know that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Or maybe you submit the offer and I go, I'm raising my eyebrows a little bit, but in a good way. I'm nodding my head. Maybe sometimes I'll sit back and look relaxed. Hold on, give me 1 second. Hey, I'm teaching my class. I'll call you a little bit later, okay? Okay, bye. Sorry, girlfriend. Okay. So another negative, what's a positive, what's a negative thing that somebody can do with their body language, maybe with their arms? They're crossing their arms maybe. Oftentimes when people cross their arms, they're feeling a little bit guarded. They're trying to, cover, it's actually a primal instinct. It's technically it's to cover their organs, quote unquote. But what they're doing is they're trying to feel more protected. They're trying to feel a little bit more reassured. They might not be happy in that situation. Sometimes if their body language is very open, they're kind of sitting back, they're listening. Okay, cool. These could be all very opening, kind of indications with their body language. They're receptive. They're feeling confident. They're whatever. So there's a lot of different nonverbal cues that we can get. Now, unfortunately, we are in a pandemic right now, so we're not going to get a lot of these nonverbal cues in submitting these offers. So I actually really enjoy having an opportunity to do FaceTime very often with people. So when my clients are viewing properties, I'm not with them all the time. But the beauty of having FaceTime on my phone is they can just go ahead and FaceTime me, and I can see what's happening, and I can see their nonverbal cues, and I can see the listing agent's nonverbal cues. So there's ways around it, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we're not going to have a lot of opportunities for this. Okay, now, okay, here's some other stuff. Identify tactics and use counter tactics. In negotiating, your clients and/or agents may use certain methods or tactics in an attempt to manipulate the negotiation. Because of these tactics are generally predictable, you can learn to quickly and accurately identify them when they're being used on you. Additionally, you can respond with the appropriate counter tactic with a high probability of accurately predicting how your response will be taken. The following are three of the most common tactics used in negotiations and counter tactics to use in response. Nibbling. Once your client has agreed upon one major concession, the other party will start nibbling for the additional smaller concessions. So for example, if somebody starts nibbling, we agree to one thing, but they start kind of nibbling away and start going after other stuff. What could we do in that situation?
You could try and redirect their focus from the smaller stuff to the bigger picture.
Totally. Listen, you told me that this is a house that your client absolutely loves. Am I understanding that we already agreed to this concession? So I don't understand what's happening. Isn't this a house that your client really loves? And then they go, oh yeah, no, my client really does love it. Absolutely. Okay, so if they really love it, why don't we just stick with this and move forward? I don't want to have to go back to my client and explain them that. We do have a lot of backup offers, currently. And then all of a sudden they'll shut down. Throw it right back onto them, frankly. The hot potato. The other part, so absolutely, Amber, that's a good point. The other party tries to pass a problem onto you. For example, the cooperating agent tries to pass all the closing costs onto your client because their client can't afford them. Just throw it right back at them again. Just say, I'm sorry, but if your client can't afford them, it's making my client very, very nervous that you're not going to be able to close on this property. Are you going to be able to close? That's going to turn it around real quick for them. And, oftentimes you just need to call them out on it, frankly. Two people are working together, for example, husband and wife, will take on opposing roles. One appears friendly and considerate, while the other behaves in a difficult or aggressive manner. Think of the typical car salesman, good guy, who says his manager, bad guy, won't let him reduce the price any further. I would direct my efforts to the bad guy. Okay, good guy. Let me talk to the bad guy now because I want to focus on you. What's happening? Isn't this a property that you really, for example, oftentimes a lot of these tactics is to face it head on and to really just address it right off the bat. There's a couple things that I just want to look at real quick, because there's an instructor version of this that might have some really good tidbits that I don't want to miss. Let me just pull this up real quick. We are on page 19. Okay. Oops. Okay. So I'm not sure if this is showing on your screen. Yeah, it is. Okay, good. So, for example, nibbling. Stop nibbling from happening to you by nibbling back. Ask for a concession in return before agreeing to any further concessions. That's a huge one. Absolutely. I like this one better than my response. And so, for example, if they're continually to nibble and nibble and nibble, just like, listen, we can go back and forth all the time, but if you're asking for this, I'm going to ask you to remove the inspection contingency. Or I'm going to ask you to remove the this or that or that or whatever. Let's say that the loan has already been pre-approved and it's already gone through underwriting. Great, can you remove the this contingency? For example, the hot potato. Other party tries to, or for example, let's say you agreed to one concession earlier, and they start nibbling about these other concessions. Say, great, okay, so you're saying that you want this little small thing to be taken care of. Okay. Let's go ahead and take care of that, but can you remove that other concern that you had that costs $5,000? And they might go, oh, never mind. We'll just stay with that one thing that we were talking about before. Okay, great. So we already agreed upon that, and we agreed upon that. Can you please remove the inspection contingency? Great, done. And that absolutely is true. I've done that before, and I didn't realize it. The other party tries to pass the problem on to you. For example, the agent tries to pass all closing costs onto your clients because they can't afford it. Throw it back. Test the validity. Find out if the problem is real. Has the party with the problem exhausted every possible solution? Yeah, that one, that's pretty much what I was saying. Just throw it right back at them and just be like, I'm sorry, but I think you're going to have to, figure this out because we're not going to go ahead and do that. And determine if it's a real issue or not. Good guy, bad guy. Call them on their game. If you can even say, come on, you're not going to play good guy, bad guy me, are you? If it continues, then attribute what the bad guy says and the good says to the good guy, since they are a tag team anyways. This will likely diffuse the tactic because now you have two bad guys. Oh, that's actually a good one. I didn't think of that. So I was saying go meet the bad guy head on. So instead, this one's saying go to the good cop and say, okay, so this is what you want too. Is that what I understand? And then that might diffuse the situation from there on. Good stuff. Any other questions in regards to that? Cool. Okay, position. The third one is position. Positioning is moving both parties closer to each other until you have a full agreement. Acknowledge and affirm the common ground, where the buyer and the seller are in agreement and are at the same position. Then identify which positions may be easily adjusted and which are set in stone. Ask what and how questions to better understand the other party's values and why certain things are important to them. For example, say you represent a seller who wants to close in 30 days. If a buyer wants to close in 60 days, ask your clients, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, are you requesting a 30-day closing? What is important? You are requesting a 30-day closing. What is important about closing in 30 days? If your client becomes defensive, you would explain, my goal is to let the buyer know why this is important to you. So absolutely, that's good stuff. Make sure they understand where you're coming from. Understanding what is important to the other party allows you to prioritize and address their issues in order of importance. Positioning is a process and sometimes requires you to come back to the negotiating table more than once. Sometimes several counteroffers will be necessary to negotiate an acceptance. Know when to walk away. Sometimes the other side may refuse to give your client the win they need despite your efforts. Knowing when and how to walk away can not only save your client from a win-lose deal, but it can sometimes jolt an unreasonable party into a concession for fear of losing the deal. The key is to walk away without burning bridges. Sometimes you're just not in an agreement and you have to kind of walk away from it. Absolutely. I've done that with buyers. I've done that with offers that we've submitted. I've done that with sellers who are trying to get a buyer to come up, and sometimes you just have to walk away and say you need to, hey, listen, I need to walk away now, blah, blah, blah. That also, by the by, in itself is a great negotiating tactic, being like, okay, well, we tried everything, and walking away. They might come running after you and going, wait. Let's do this. Let's do this. It's all good. So 100%. Okay, your turn positioning. Okay, this is a role play thing. Unfortunately, we are not in person in class, so we can't really do this. Your turn, negotiate a counteroffer. Again, this is also a scenario, so we'll skip on that. Okay, that's actually it for today. So congratulations, we made it before 2 o'clock, so that's good news. Is there anything that we learned today in class that we might want to discuss? Are there any questions? Awesome. Well, the main important thing is to realize that negotiation, everybody's going to have their own tactics when it comes to negotiating. So keep in mind that this is an art, it's not a science. It's going to be different for every single situation. Sometimes you're going to want to show your fangs. Sometimes you're going to want to be very nice and sweet. But the most important thing is be very careful about showing your fangs, even when you're asking for money off. You want to do it in a way that you find some common ground. You don't want to just be like, oh, we're going to take all this money out and blah, 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 whatever. You want to justify your request to the other side before you end up asking for it. You want to explain to them that this is actually, a very reasonable request from my buyer. So instead of just being like, yeah, we want $100,000 off because blah, 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 blah. For example, you found out that there's cloth wiring for the electrical. You find out that there's a leak in the galvanized plumbing. You find out that the heater is an open, flame furnace. That's very, very dangerous. You might want to get those in repairs, but in presenting that, you're going to, probably lean heavily on the fact that these are dangerous. Listen, when we submitted the offer, we really, really wanted to go in at full price, but unfortunately we found out that there is cloth electrical wiring. As well as I do, that that's a fire hazard. And as much as we want to stick at our price, that's something that needs to be taken care of. Either we can go ahead and extend our escrow period for much longer and have your seller do the repairs on our behalf, or maybe we can come to an agreement that the bid that we receive for it is $40,000 to redo all the electrical. Maybe we'll come to an agreement at $35,000. And by the by, just so you know, I already talked to the buyer. I'm not saying this to the listing agent. We already spoke to the buyer and they're like, yeah, let's just ask for like maybe $20,000 off. So we come up at a little bit of a higher price to hopefully meet down somewhere, to someplace that's more acceptable. But the reason why I want to position it that way, it's not, we need this money off and that's it. We're trying to justify why we're asking for that off. We want them to go, you know what, these are very reasonable people. They're treating us fairly right now. And if we were in your situation, we would probably do the same. And so when we're negotiating things, we don't want to come across as too aggressive, even if we are being aggressive in what we're asking for. We want to make it seem, and rightfully so, that this is a fair request that we're asking for. Make sense? All right. So if there's no other questions, we are done for the day. And I look forward to seeing you all on Wednesday. If there's any questions that you have, feel free to hit me up on Instagram. It's at Jared Meddy. I will also put my number in the chat if people just want to shoot me off a quick text message. Oops. And yeah, so if we're all good, I hope to see everybody. And that's my Instagram. I hope to see everybody on Wednesday. Have a great day. Cheers, and try to keep our numbers up and get some more, get some leads. Why don't you?
Thanks,
Cheers.
Erin. Bye.
Thank you all. Have a great one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.